G'day, cunts. Welcome to episode number, I don't check, of like 50 something, I don't know, of the GreenCast, a podcast by me, Mr. GreenText, where I usually ramble to myself like a madman in my bedroom. However, today is not one of those episodes, yet again, as I'm joined by a friend that I know IRL.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi.
I don't know how else to really like introduce him. I don't know. It's always the weird thing with podcasts. It's just like sometimes you're just like, oh, how do I address you? But apart from like intros, people don't really like typically address someone in like a one-on-one podcast anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of have I'm just a normal person, so it's not like, oh, you bring on this person this week.
Like, ooh, this person.
I am just friend, so.
Just friend. Skater friend, I think. Because
That's right.
I'm probably going to title this just like the skate episode or some shit like that.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, for those who do listen to this podcast for whatever fucking reason on the regular, you might hear me talk about going skating in the city with a friend. On the podcast is certain. I have him on the podcast. Is what I'm trying to say. I speak one language and I still can't even do that fucking properly. I do have like some sort of vague topics to go through. I have vaguely sort of talked about like uni and that sort of stuff. So I suppose I guess get a little bit into just like how we met. I guess if you do want to get into that.
Yeah. I can't honestly remember. I don't know if you made a massive impression on me to start out. And we went to uni a few years ago, and I think we sort of were friendly, but we weren't really like, big friends. Like, we'd talk and, we had all the mutual friends and, just regular friends or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was the case for probably like 2-3 years nearly. And then it was really only like, a year and a bit ago that, I was sort of picking up skating again since I did it when I was younger. And you'd said you'd just bought a board, and that's sort of where it all started, really.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, we had like a really... It's so weird. I don't think it's the same with a lot of people's, like, especially, like, university experience. I mean, yeah, we went to a fucking private thingy that we got fucked with a dumb amount of debt. But we had, like, a really good, like, group dynamic where, like, most people in, like, our little cohort of people, like surprisingly, like, close. And it felt like kind of, I mean, we call it the film fam for a good fucking reason, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. There was probably I think there was close to something just over 100 when we first started the course who were in the same batch as us. And I think only about 30 to 40 finished.
Yeah.
And out of that 40, there's probably, 20, 25 of us who are fairly close. And over the years, that sort of dwindled a little bit. But, still really good friends with most people.
Yeah. Which I think, like, I mean, yeah, originally when I did even, like, start, like, university, I think I sort of vaguely knew that, specifically with film degrees, that I'm probably not going to get so much out of it technical-wise. Like, I think I kind of half went into it just being like, oh, I'm going to try and make more connections here, and that sort of stuff, and I guess I kind of very much fucking exceeded with that, with meeting people and, meeting especially like-minded people that I can do shit with. But yeah, like as he was saying before, I started skating, like, I'd always wanted to skateboard, but I'd always been, like, kind of confused. I just opened this bottle and I'm just not going to drink from it, as I just realised. I'd always kind of wanted to skateboard, but I think, like, a lot of people, they're just very much intimidated. Like, as a kid, I'd always stood on a skateboard and then be like, oh, I'm never going to do this again, and just got off immediately, because I'm like, I don't want to break my fucking wrist. Because I still don't know how I've done it. I've never broken a bone in my body before doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, like, everybody says this. You say, like, oh, you should come skate with me, or, you try and encourage other people. Like, the first thing everyone always says is, oh, I don't have good balance, or, they've had a bad experience just standing on one. And, maybe they thought it would be easy, and then they actually stood on one, and it was actually quite intimidating. It's like, what? Everybody has bad balance when they first get on a skateboard. It's like picking up any skill, really.
Yeah.
Like, within 1 month, you're going to have a pretty good idea. It's very... I think that's the thing about skateboard, is the progression is really clear with it.
Yeah.
And you can make, really easy progression on small things all the time with it. And that's what makes it so rewarding in a sense.
I heard a lot of like weirdly philosophical that's the one meanings come out from, I think, Steve-O of all people, specifically about skateboarding, that skateboarding is one of the only things, or like it could show like who you are as a person a lot, because skateboarding is one of the only things where like you can't really like cheat it. It's either like you do it or you don't. A lot with like tricks are just like you can either fucking do an ollie or you fucking can't.
Yeah.
Or you can do a kickflip, or and a lot of people. And another specific thing is like whether you can actually go through with it and actually commit to it, to actually do it. Whether people just like, yeah, as you're saying, just like, oh yeah, immediately into it and just give up, or try and do an ollie and then half slip and be like, oh yep, nope, no thanks. It's just like, I guess that just shows who you are as like a person. They're just like, oh yeah, you do have the commitment to actually follow through with this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people are driven to want to learn how to skateboard out of like sort of fascination about skate culture and that sort of alternative sort of athletic sport that you can do. And I think most people jump on, they're really keen to do it, and they can even like kind of ride it to the end of the road, but they don't know how to stop, they don't know how to turn or whatever, and that's usually where people seem to give up. I don't know, it's also something like you can get very stagnant with your skills. Like, when I first learned how to do an ollie, it was such a rewarding feeling. It was like, like the number one thing that it's sort of a bit of a crowning achievement in some sense. And like,
it's like the trick that you learn to start.
And like, yeah, and then once you learn that, it's like, for me at least, it was like, okay, well, I've got this now. And for a long time, I was like, I just don't have the same motivation to learn something new within skateboarding. And like, then I realized, I can actually improve, my ollies on top of what I already know. So, shoulder positioning and where your feet are, and you can get even better results out of something you thought that you just sort of had. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that you have to be motivated to do it all the time. And you get sort of small rewards on the way. You're like, oh, this is coming along, or, I'm getting closer to doing this. And you can kind of see the puzzle pieces come together in that sense. So that's why I think I like it.
It's also one of those sort of things where I think I could find, like, I can just spend some time, like an hour or so, and just be like, try different things. Or just like, oh, if I try and do an ollie with my foot position like this, with like a singular pinky toe hanging off the board, and my front foot is in the middle with my heel slightly hanging off, how will it go like this? And just like constantly, just the sort of thing you can kind of just shut everything off in your brain and just be like, I'm just going to focus on this for like an hour and just see how it goes. I find that almost like a sort of like meditation for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, skateboarding is 90% muscle memory. Like, it's, yes, there is in a sense like a bit of an equation, there's a bit of maths and science to it, but it's all about like just getting a good feel of it, because you can learn something once and then it might take you a week to learn that same thing again, because you just had everything came together right when it was supposed to. And it's like getting that consistent in a sense, and that's kind of what you need to be doing if you want to skateboard. It's just like doing it 1,000 times until like you're doing it almost all the time.
Yeah, you just do it without thinking.
Yeah,
because perfect example is me doing a pop shove it. Like, I landed my first one, like, probably 2 weeks ago at this point now. And, I mean, yeah, it was pretty fucky and kind of dodge. Like, I mean, I didn't fall off the board when I landed on it, and I still had both feet on the board, so it counts. It's sloppy, but I still haven't, like, consistently, like, landed it or even, like, perfected, like, the pop or the pop shove it and everything else. But it's just, like, yeah, just getting to that point, it's just like, oh, yeah, just like this, and then just drilling it over and over again, so you do get that, like, muscle memory of just, like, oh, yeah, I don't have to think about it, just, like, do pop shove it, done.
Yeah, I mean, it can sort of surprise you what you make progression on. Like, it's probably even like when I picked up skating again, like, because I rode a fishtail sort of cruiser in high school when I was 15, and I did that in a particular time in my life where I was very mopey and like wanted to do something cool, and it was good for when I was that age. And then I sort of stopped and picked it up again, and I was like, I can sort of cruise, and this feels good, and I feel pretty confident on the board. And then you sort of look back like, you know, just looking at this year, it's like, even just on cruising, like I feel way more comfortable navigating around people, you know, going over cracks and things like that. So it can always surprise you, the smallest things that will change over time with skateboarding.
Oh yeah, I mean, even just like, slightly sort of on topic, even just like with landing a trick, there's like not really many other feelings that are really like it when you land that first trick, that first time after you've been trying for so fucking long. But yeah, it's even just like I learned on, I mean, you know, you were with me one of my first times. I bought a plastic shitty penny board knockoff thing from Kmart for $15. And literally the first session we had together, I fucking snapped it.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah, and like that's when I literally learned how to fucking skate on. Like I could hardly fit like 2 feet on the board, but for some reason I still had enough motivation to be like, oh yeah, this could be fun. Because I was just like, oh yeah, this is a pretty, you know, safe investment. If I like it, then maybe I might get a bigger board.
Yeah, I think the issue is I work with a lot of kids sort of throughout the Christmas period, and you see a lot of kids and they, you know, they want skateboards for Christmas, and a lot of kids want skateboards anyway, regardless time of year, and especially in 2020 with, you know, sort of COVID and everything. But a lot of kids have picked up skateboards and want to, and it's like the first skateboard that they get is like, and understandably, you know, you don't want to buy your kid something you don't know that they're going to be fully committed to, but a lot of kids will buy like a $20 board from like Kmart or Target or wherever, Big W, and it will hardly roll like 5 meters. Yeah. Like it would take so much to actually use that effectively, because everything's made out of plastic and it's built really poorly, and just as cheap, and like that's the first thing, you know. If I was that kid who was picking up and that was my first board, I would give up immediately. I think there'd be no motivation, because there are so many bad boards out there for beginners. Like, you know, like it would just make you give up immediately, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I have first fucking account experience, because after I snapped my first board, like luckily just that day we just have defined like a full-size board in like an op shop. But then I'm like, oh, I want to get like a nice like proper board. And for whatever reason, my first thought was like, I'm going to go to Big W and then buy one from there. And then I bought one for like $25. And the next time we went skating, you were fucking like little like 500 meters in front of me. And I'm behind, and I'm just like, every 2 meters I'm just like pushing as hard as I can and then hardly rolling. Just like, what are you doing? Learn how to skate better. And I'm like, alright, fucking, you have a go on this board then, cunt.
I literally couldn't understand why you were going so fucking slow. Like, it was, I was like, are you pushing properly or whatever? And then I jumped on, and it was like, wow, this goes nowhere. This board goes nowhere. Like, you'd expend so much energy just pushing and going anywhere on that thing. It's awful.
Oh yeah, it was fucking horrible. And it's just like, yeah, if that's me at like age 20, 21, like if I was a kid, I'd push it for like 2 meters and be like, this sucks. I'm never doing this again.
Yeah, I sort of think it's like, you know, if you get one of those $20 boards when you're a kid, it's probably bundled in with a bunch of other presents anyways. You may be like, oh, this is one cool thing, but it's like, you know, it's not the whole package when it might come to Christmas if you're fortunate enough to get, you know, a few things for Christmas. So it's like, you're probably going to pick it up and put it down within a couple of hours and never touch it again. Yeah, and you see most kids end up on scooters now anyway. All those bikes without pedals that we've seen as well. Those are another story.
That's a whole fucking thing, yeah, too. For whatever reason, like when we've gone to a lot of skate parks and like seeing like, I don't know, maybe like kids that are like maybe 5 and under, learning how to like, I guess they like learn how to pedal on a bike, but they don't have fucking pedals. It's literally like, imagine like a 4-year-old on a bike, but they have no pedals, so they just have to just like, I'm doing a visual motion, I realize it's a podcast. They're just like standing on the bike essentially, just like pedaling it with their feet, just on the ground, just pushing themselves along.
Yeah, it's just like you just push yourself with your feet. It's like, I don't know. It makes me sound like a boomer, but back in the day, like we had training wheels for our bikes. Yeah. I don't know what the science is or if it's any better for kids, but like these bikes, you can't then attach, as far as I know, you can't then attach pedals to them later. Like they're built like that. Yeah. So you have to spend on this bike that your child will use for like 2 months and then invest in an actual bike.
Yeah.
It just seems really weird to me.
Plus, it's just like, if you're on training wheels, you can like sit on the bike and not have to put your feet down. Like, it keeps you stable.
Yeah, of course.
And so, like, well, without it, you just like have to be fully up the entire time. And I feel like that's almost kind of worse to a degree if you look at it from that angle.
I think we saw I was talking to one of the dads that their kid had one, and I was asking him what it was, and it's something to do with like I guess like if they can learn, because they said that they pick up the pedals pretty quickly. Like the pedals aren't the hard thing, but it's the balance. So I think they're designed for like, don't worry about the pedals, but just like if you can just kind of roll around on 2 wheels without having training wheels, then I think that is the idea. But I still don't really understand. Like, it wasn't difficult, really. You know, you crash a couple times. It's not difficult to transition from training wheels to just, you know, removing them.
Yeah, exactly.
In the old days. So.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even like that's a whole other thing that I want to talk about as well. It's sort of half really mentioned. Like, I think that's another thing a lot of people are intimidated about, specifically skateboarding, is like skateboarding culture as well. And I think there's a lot of like negative connotations around it, and they're all just like ratty kids that just want to break the law and do all this other shit. When in reality, like, with our experiences, they're some of the most friendly fucking people that like we've run into.
Yeah, I mean, skateboarders have always been, in the times that we've encountered them, it happens a fair bit, and it's like, they've always been really decent. They're often younger than us and way better than us, which is always a bit embarrassing. Like, I remember there was this, like, 15-year-old kid, and he's, like, with his grandma, and he comes up to us, and he's like, can I have a go, can I have a go? And I'm like, oh, who is this? He's just walking very fast. And before I knew it, he'd picked up my board, and I was like, am I going to get robbed right now? And all of a sudden, he just lands like a double kickflip, something I will never do in my entire life. And he just walked off. He's like, oh, lovely, what a nice Enjoy board or whatever the brand. He's like, and then he walked off with his grandma. And it was like, but yeah, skateboarders are so nice generally, like, and they'll always want to teach you stuff. But yeah, they do have there's some weird connotations with skateboarders, I think, especially around like, you know, law enforcement and old people and whatever, like, you know, I don't know. It's like anything, though, really, that's kind of a bit alternative.
I guess, but it's just like, you know, I mean, I guess it's sort of different negative connotations for, like, scooter kids. Because the first thing I think of when I think of scooter kids, I just think of an esche.
Does your audience know what an esche is? It's like a bit of an Australian term, I think.
Yeah, actually, good point. Esche. How do I even describe an esche? So imagine like a 12 to 15-year-old kid, scrawniest motherfucker you've seen in your life. They're wearing specifically Adidas, maybe Nike. Like
tracksuit.
Yeah, like tracksuit, wearing like one of those like...
the bum bag kind of...
bum bag sort of things, and like the sweat fucking like really thin material jumpers a lot of the time, usually rolled up sleeves,
wraparound sunglasses.
Yeah, wraparound sunglasses, speed dealers as we call it here in the Loud Down Under.
And it's usually during like school hours when they're supposed to be at school as well. You see them.
Yeah, usually got a knife or fucking try and roll you for your fucking your TNs or your bloody shoes or whatever, but you're just like, what are you doing? You're like 3/4 of my fucking like weight and height. Get lost, you little retard. But yeah, just imagine like it's essentially like it's just a chihuahua with their fucking like little like
they sort
little
of
dog complex.
Yeah, they're LARPing about being in a gang or whatever. Like that's what their whole thing is. Like they want to be like cool and they want to be on the street or whatever, but then they're like riding around on a fucking Razor scooter. It's like you can't be both of those things, you know, like.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it. It's just like, imagine an underage kid who really wants to be in a gang and is pretending to be, but, you know, the moment any sort of, like, physical action or altercation, like, occurs or someone takes them up for it, they're either will pull a knife on you or they'll fucking, like, run the other way and quickly back down. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Yes, that's sort of, like, the stereotype about scooter kids, but when I think of scooter kids, it's more like a horde of 100 children at like the skate park that's generally the case anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shay's definitely kind of the negative side of that. Yeah.
But yeah, even with like just again with like skateboarders and their connotations, like yeah, sure. Like we had, I think I briefly sort of talked about it. Like that one, like Kudo apparently won like a Fortnite competition that we ran into that one time. That's like 15-year-old kid, you know, most stereotypical skater you could imagine. Fucking no shirt on, his shirt fucking hanging out of his pants, like skating along, doing some fucking like tray flips and some stuff that I don't even fucking know the proper names of, and things that we probably could never do, doing like epic grinds and stuff. And just like rolls up to us. So it's just like, oh yeah, hey, go on, boys. And then just like shows us how to do tricks. And like this is while I was still trying to learn how to do just a normal shove it. And they're just like, oh, you just need to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then immediately got it like my first try. Just like this fucking 15, 14-year-old kid who's just like, I don't know. He said he hadn't been skated for like 2 years, I think as well. Maybe if that.
Yeah, no, it was less than 2 years. It was like he wanted to break away from... It's like he didn't like where his life was heading with all the Fortnite streaming and all the tournaments he was doing. So he decided to pick up skateboarding. I think he went like through more than like 10 boards in the 2 years that he'd been skating. Like, it's crazy.
It's like, oh yeah, we've been skating for like about a year and a half, maybe. At this point, we've each gone through a singular board.
I mean, it's not even that. The board still works as well.
Oh yeah,
like the old board is not broken.
Oh yeah, no, it's just like slightly got razor tip on like each end, and it's like maybe a little bit
scuffed,
a little bit scuffed and cracked. Just like want a bit more pristine board, which both of us still look pretty pristine because we just don't do grinds and stuff like that. And we probably won't for a good while, I think. Probably.
Yeah.
Unless it's a very fucking low rail or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I think definitely my new board has been destroyed way less than the last one. I don't know whether that's a good sign or not. Or maybe that means I'm not brave enough. But the old one got way more destroyed and tattered than the one I've got now. Like, the design on it is still in like really good condition, and I don't know what that means about me as a skateboarder, to be honest. So yeah.
I don't know. I think it's because like especially when we were like learning early on, we didn't really fucking know that much what we were doing. Like there was a whole period where we were just like, oh, what's the best way to brake? Oh, tail slide. That's the best way to brake
that's
on a
right.
skateboard. So
well, it looked cool as fuck.
Oh yeah, it does.
But it's like really bad for your board.
Yeah, especially when you're loading too. So just constantly drilling, just like scraping your fucking board across the concrete, and just like that's probably how I got the razor edge so fucking quick.
Probably. Yeah. I kind of want to... I'd like to... Because, like, doing, like, a tail slide or whatever, stuff like that, it was always... You know, like, it's a stylish way to stop, but it's like... Oh, wow. So, just had a bit of a bro moment. Just had some water spill right over a laptop, which, I don't think was in the script, to be quite honest. It's all gone wrong now. So if this cuts off, this is the last thing you'll hear.
Oh fuck!
So yeah, there's just a lot of water on the table now, and just spill a whole water ball over the keyboard. That's really good. I really like the quality of content that comes out on this channel. Always surprises me. Really good. Yeah, get some kitchen towels on that. Soak that bad boy out. Yeah, I mean, maybe half your keyboard doesn't work, but the computer's still alive. That's so
fine. I just use it for listening to podcasts anyway.
Well, that didn't go to plan, but I didn't know this was going to happen when I signed up to do this. So.
Oh, did you not see the part in the script where I said Green spills in a half-filled water bottle all over his laptop?
Yeah, I didn't see that, unfortunately. But, yeah, I mean, just from the start, like, trying to get those mic stands up. I mean, it's all gone well today. Don't touch the cable. I'm not allowed to touch the cable, otherwise the mic will break. Spilling water over the computer. Kind of touch a mic stand to a table. It's gone really well so far.
I didn't say it'll break. I said that it gives it a bit of a static.
Oh, sorry. Forgive me.
That's fine. It's still recording fine. And I mean, look, this is the fucking thing I'm recording, and I don't give a shit about it at all. This is like an ex-school laptop that I had. that I literally keep in like my little workshop, and it's just covered in fucking dust and shit. Before the podcast is going to begin, I'm just like, I should probably get like a little dust thing to just like brush it off. And I just couldn't be fucked. So
I think you'll need much more than a dust cleaner now.
Yeah, well, it's looking a lot cleaner already.
That's true.
That's true. Oh well, it's kind of a testament to Dell laptops, I guess, that you can spill a fucking water bottle. Also, I love how I literally I had the fucking top off the bottle for all of 30 seconds before I fucking immediately smashed it over.
Yeah, nice job. That was amazing.
Oh, fuck.
This has gone swimmingly.
Oh, yeah, that was great. Oh, well, that derailed it.
It was maybe a good segue into something else.
Yeah, possibly. Did you want to talk about the tour d'escape?
Yeah.
Because I haven't talked about that yet on the podcast.
Yeah, that was a cool thing. I think it went up on, you put it on your TikTok, some of the highlights of it. But yeah, it was just like, I just said to you, like, what if we did like a really long skate or do a loop or somewhere around the city we're in, and you know, you were up for it and everything, and we sort of decided on a route. And I think initially it was you sent me a map, and it was like 10 kilometers. I was like, we can do more than that. All of a sudden it's 20 kilometers and we're starting at like 3 p.m. in the afternoon, which was an interesting choice, but it was awesome. I really enjoyed it, and I want to do more of it. It's just the problem is, I think in the city that we're in, it's like there's not a lot of good places to loop back on itself. There's not a lot of bridges that you can walk across, or many bridges at all, really. A lot of it is paved like absolute dog shit as well.
Yeah, I think that's
here.
the bigger problem. It's just more so just a lot of it is
a lot of elevation as well. Like we sort of went through, I don't know, do you say what city? Was it safe to say the suburbs, or?
Well, I mean, I said like it's attached in the TikTok that it's in Brisbane, so yeah.
Okay, right. So
I mean, I'm not.
I mean, none of you will know anyway.
Yeah.
Unless.
I mean, I had that one fan that commented on my Twitter, just been like, when I posted up a picture of like this one spot in Brisbane where you can like see the skyline like really well, and it's one of the best views in Brisbane. I posted a picture up on Twitter, and I had someone reply to it saying, "Oh, I know where that is. I live really close to that."
That was worrying.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, well, I mean, I don't fucking live close to it, so I don't care.
Do you attach like any pictures to this podcast, or is it just audio the whole way? Like, you won't be able to see anything.
Yeah, it'll just be like a static picture. I'll just literally get a generic stock image that vaguely. I'll probably just get a generic stock image of a British man and put it over.
Oh, okay. Well, for me, I was talking about just like the route that we took, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll put a link to the TikTok. There's also a plug. Go follow my TikTok account. My fellow Zoomers. I have a TikTok.
Yep.
You should
pretty
go follow
epic.
that. But yeah, there's a link to the great tour to skate in the description if you want to go check that out. It's only a minute. I'm sure you Zoomers have enough fucking brain capacity to take that for.
It was so basically it was like we went through the city kind of region, and there's around Brisbane there's kind of a lot of like bike paths and right by the water, so we went kind of around the city and down into the kind of sort of western suburbs right around the water. We came around this university that's here, went over the bridge, and then kind of went back the same way but along the other side of the river. And some of the way on the way back was like really steep, like impossible to skate. There was that one hill that was like you would die if you bombed that.
It's literally some of the steepest hills I've seen in person, like in my fucking life, walking down that fucking thing.
Yeah, and it was about like 4 and a bit hours, I think.
Yeah, about like 4.5 hours.
And probably about 30 to 45 minutes of that we probably walked, maybe. Is that safe to say?
Probably around that, yeah.
And then, but yeah, there was some. I actually was really surprised, especially on the way back. There's some like amazing views of the city, like that one you mentioned, and some others, because it takes you right by the water and you can see all the buildings and whatever. So it was a really good route, actually. We're trying to figure out another route, but it's hard to kind of match that and do something different, just because like the accessibility of Brisbane. But we'll figure something out. But yeah, it was so awesome, and I was so dead tired after that.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, I felt to like half brag. I don't know, I wasn't so tired. I feel like if any of this TMI, I don't give a fuck, I guess, with the shit I talk about. For whatever reason, the most sore thing on my end wasn't the leg that I was pushing with. It wasn't the leg that I was on the board. It was my butthole was like raw the next day for whatever fucking reason. I had to like fully cream it up for like the entire day. I was in so much pain for whatever fucking reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I couldn't really, my kicking leg, like my pushing leg, which is my right leg, I couldn't really lift that very high the next day because I think I'd just like gone so hard on it all day. I mean, 20 kilometers, that's a long way. I don't know what that is in miles for your American losers that watch this.
I don't care. Go fucking...
Yeah, join the metric system, losers. I think they were going to do that like 30 years ago, and then Reagan like cancelled it or whatever. You could have joined the rest of it. Anyway, we went 20 kilometers, and that's a long way on a skateboard especially. And so, yeah, I was pretty achy and tired for the following days. But yeah, it was really fun though. Definitely would do it again. And I put it up on my social media, and I had a lot of response to it, and people really liked it. So yeah, I think it was kind of a cool concept. So hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, and if anything, like, especially even just like, I can't remember who else I was talking to about it recently, but I find skating specifically has helped me learn the layouts of like Brisbane and like everywhere we've been.
Oh yeah.
So much so that I think I ever would have thought it would have.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. It gives you gives you a great orientation of things because you're not just driving through it or looking at a GPS. You're actually like, there's things to remember, like a shop on a corner or whatever, and you're like, oh, I've been here, and if we go left then right, we'll get back to where we were. And it was like, you just know. And that's another reason I think skateboarding is so cool. Even if you just do it for a cruising sake, you get to know your landscape so much. Yeah. And that's a huge benefit.
It's just like a whole thing of like being aware of your surroundings that you just like opens up your world up to. Like, for example, like everywhere now, I've always just got this thing in my brain just like, oh, this is a really nicely paved path. This would be really nice to skate on. Yeah. Like, that's just in my brain forever now.
Which is like
whenever I see that.
Not much of Brisbane, to be honest. A lot of it is like old, like kind of Victorian era fucking like tiles or whatever, which is garbage to skate on. Yeah. And the shit that drops from trees in Australia, there's like, I don't know, what are the little things that you always trip over? Like it's like a seed kind of thing like that blows off from the tree, but they're like dead hard and you will just fly off the board. But there are some good areas, like the new developments that have come up recently have got a really nice pave. Like we went through that TAFE not long ago, and that was like one strip that you could just skate through. Yeah, anything new like that is generally quite good to skate through. Yeah.
There was a point in there that I was going to segue off and then immediately fucking lost it in my brain.
Oh, nice. That's really cool. It's a really good production, this one.
Oh, yeah. Look, literally, it's like 12:30, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I suppose I should somewhat organize things to talk about for the podcast. I don't know. I feel like that... It has, like, a certain charm to it, I guess. So just, like, scuffedness and just how, like, not prepared.
Trying to Joe Rogan it.
I would definitely not compare myself to Joe Rogan by fucking any stretch of the imagination.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I don't really watch that podcast. It only really comes up, like, if I'm playing a video when I go to sleep, and it's, like, always on autoplay for some reason. But whenever I do see it, it's very off the cuff, right? So yeah, it's, like, the most popular in the world, so... Yeah,
I think it's pretty safe to say it is the biggest podcast in the world.
And they do it very off the cuff production, so...
Well, I mean, that is the sort of... I mean, it is sort of the try and form I try and sort of replicate, just, like, having a conversation just with someone that you would enjoy having a conversation with, which I think has been, like, all my podcasts that I've had so far. I mean, apart from, the fucking solo ones. I enjoy talking to myself, I think.
I don't know how you could do that for so long. That would be... I'd just be, like... As soon as I'm like done with a thought and I still need to like pad it out, I'd be like, and I'd be like trying to think of something on the spot. I think I could talk to myself for an hour. That sounds strange.
Usually what I have is I got my multiple monitors, and then I have the recording on one screen, and I just have like a list of like 5 things that I'm staring at the entire time.
Right.
So I'm just.
What sort of topics do you talk about? Is it like real world shit at all, or just like things in your life, in your world?
Things in my life, things in my world, whatever I just find interesting. I don't know. Look, podcast is definitely one of the things that as soon as I record it and upload it, it's fucking left my brain, and I don't know what the hell I talked about. Like, I occasionally get comments just like, oh, I really liked it when you said this thing on, like, a podcast, and I'm like, I have no memory of saying that absolutely at all. So I know, like, maybe, like, the bigger ones where I had, like, guests, like, I think, like, Luke Hidgel and, like, Lewis Spears, and I'm just like, oh, yeah, no, those are really fun. I can, like, remember those just because of, like, how weird it was to get, like, those people.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, you know. You get Lewis Spears one week, and then you have me the next. It's like, you know, there's a tier of guests, you know.
I mean, look, I had plans to get, like, other bigger people, but, you know, a certain virus, you know, kind of fucked a lot of people's plans, I think, to do anything this year. Yeah.
Well, we're doing pretty well here. It's not too bad.
Oh, yeah, no, I think
life's pretty normal here.
I think Australia's pretty much kicked it at this point, I'd say. Like, Victoria, I think, I've read a thing before, I think it was 14 days now they've had with 0 local cases.
Yeah.
Now, which Victoria, for those who don't know, was like it's also, I think, the state with the most consecutive days of lockdown in the world, because they were just so determined to just, like, kick the bucket. Well, kick the bucket of the virus, I should say.
Kick the bucket is like a pejorative term, like a negative, like as if they'd just given up on it.
Yeah, no. If I'd say that, it'd be more referring to America, if anyone. That's a whole other thing that I'm going to get into. But yeah, Victoria, it was also kind of funny to me, especially where they were taking it so seriously when they were getting 700 cases a day.
Yeah.
Whereas countries like even France, for example, are setting new fucking records with like 25 to 30,000 cases a day, and they're like, oh, we should probably go back on the lockdown.
I actually looked the other day, and it's like we've had something like 27,000 total cases in Australia, I think.
Yeah.
Right? I looked in the no, where was it? Actually, no, I was looking in the United Kingdom, where my grandparents are.
Yeah.
And just the other day, I think they had 26,000 cases in one day. I was like, that's like our whole year. And I was like, my grandparents are over there, and they've just not been able to do anything like all year.
Yeah.
And it's like, geez, there's just a pecking order with which countries are dealing with it better. I think it's safe to say.
I mean, it's like, yeah, sure, you could make the argument like, oh, we're an island and we can control, like, in a country much easier. But, like, to an extent.
I think some of it is like, you know, definitely, not to get too political, but I promise it's definitely relinquished a lot of power to the states here. Yeah. And obviously we have a very, you know, we're an island. We also don't have a very dense population per the states. So it makes it a lot easier to contain, and we've had hard border locks on some of the states here. So it's been, that's helped contain it. But I just think generally it's done a pretty good job on it, regardless. Also, just
a fun fact that I saw just about the virus and everything. I don't know if I can even really fucking say it without just this whole podcast getting yeeted from the algorithm, because it's just a fucking keyword that just gets me fucked. Actually, no, never mind. I said the word cunt. This podcast is already fucked. Never mind, I guess. The total amount of... This is from the John Hopkins University statistics things that they've been doing for Corona the entire year. The total amount of cases worldwide is 50 million.
Yeah, I think I saw
that. The US now has 10 million cases. So a fifth of the total cases of Corona is now from specifically the United States.
Well, yeah, it's like they're outperforming their population.
Yeah.
Like, per capita, you know, but for the... I don't know what the... I think, like, the US might be, like, 10 to something % of the world population. But their COVID cases are, like, way higher than that. And so it's, like, per capita, they're doing really, really bad. I think I saw a picture in, like, Rhode Island or whatever in the US, and it was, like... they had an infection rate of something like 4.8%, and this guy was, like, not taking a mask from someone who was offering it. It was like, wow, okay, it's become really political.
Yeah, that's just the whole thing that's just insane to be. And all Australians are just laughing at Americans at just how that they've politicized this whole fucking thing. When it's just like, I don't why are you bringing politics into this at all?
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty insane. It's just, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll have to see.
Yeah, well, I know there's definitely. Well, I mean, not that I was planning to fucking visit America, but I don't think anyone's going to be able to travel there.
Yeah.
For probably, I'd say, I don't think, at least for another year, we're not going to be able to go to America.
Yeah.
At least.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot to get that under control over there. Just like, it's like nearly 250,000 people have fucking died.
Oops, yeah.
Rip.
Whoopsie. But yeah, meanwhile, fucking here, I saw a thing this morning that our local state minister actually put out a thing saying that from November 17th, I think it was, they've reduced a bunch of restrictions again, and even stuff like live shows can now return to 100% capacity.
Yeah, I saw that, which is pretty epic.
Yeah, which is just like a thing that they can't even, I guess, have the thought about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're doing in the US. I don't know, because they don't really have many restrictions anyway. Do they?
It's past the point of like they can't do anything.
But like, have the states put in restrictions or what?
I think specific states. It's the same sort of thing vaguely that.
Because I don't think they've been doing it on a federal level, really.
No, they haven't. I think they gave it to states, and some states would enforce it, and some wouldn't.
Yeah.
But bigger ones, I think, like California, they didn't enforce it, and so that kind of like fucked it for a lot of people.
Yeah. It's just different. Everywhere in the world has dealt with it differently. It's been pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's something else, to say the least.
Well, that was the COVID segment, anyway.
Yeah, that's the COVID segment. Getting back to forgetting things about on podcasts and, I thought I'd vaguely talk about one of my friends that knows that I'm a big fan of Friendly Geordies sent me a thing saying, "Oh, you need to know about this because Friendly Geordies is getting cancelled at the moment for his racist views." And I'm like, "What?" And it was this TikTok here. And I'll just play it for you. So it's this Aboriginal fella that they took a thing out of a podcast where he's talking about like sacred trees.
Hey everyone, please stop scrolling and watch this clip of Friendly Geordies for a second.
Can we really be telling them what trees are or aren't sacred when they've got their sacred land back after being displaced?
Yes, it's called science. It's called tallying tree rings. I'm sorry, I'm sick of this shit of everyone just being like, well, the rainbow sherping is a thing, so that's what happened in Australia, right? No! The giant snake sucks. It's called a fucking carpet python, dude. Like, when Indigenous people were saying that is sacred tree, no. Like, science is science.
Worth discussion to be having in the middle of NIDOC week, guys.
What week? Look, yeah.
I know.
Okay, obviously, yeah. I'm not on that Andrew Bolt train if there wasn't a genocide that was enacted on the Indigenous people. Yeah, obviously there was. But, like, dude, science counts for everything. If that tree was not there before colonialism, it's a tree. It's a tree.
What was he trying to say there?
I think it's just... I mean, this guy... I sort of looked into his fucking TikTok. He is a Aboriginal independent journalist who has no pronouns and is also very much for like LGBT alphabet rights, whatever the fuck. I don't know. There was literally like 6 actual ones.
Right.
I couldn't really tell. Not that I'm half going to be like, fuck all them, but yeah, I think the half point he was trying to make is just like, wow, how dare he talk down Aboriginal culture with the rainbow serpent and say that this tree isn't sacred. I think the point that he was that they're trying to make and have a bit of a gotcha moment.
So what was he trying to say? Like, what was about the tree? I don't really understand.
Well, I think he's saying just like, oh, again, this is the thing that I fucking hate the most about specifically shit like this, where they take a minute segment out of a hour and a half long podcast, and I could see there was like 2 or 3 or 4 fucking like jump cuts along, and just completely take it out of context of what they were talking about. I mean, vaguely you have some sort of context with it, but you're not going to hear the total thing, and people aren't going to fucking go and sort it out. But I think the point they were trying to make is just like, oh, Aboriginals said that this tree is sacred, when it's just like, well, science you can check the tree rings, and then they checked it, and then it hadn't actually been there as long as the Aboriginals would said it, or just like it shouldn't be sacred because it was there after we came here and we planted it. Why are the Aboriginals saying that it's sacred when we planted it?
Right, okay. I don't know, it's sort of hard for me to comment on it without seeing the whole thing.
I know, and that's why it's just like, because that's exactly what happened. Like, my friend's like, oh, you see you get a counsel from this? And I'm like, well, for one, kind of funny. Just like, haha, it's during NAIDOC week. But two, it's just like, again, it's just a fucking thing out of a podcast. He's just looking for a fucking gotcha moment.
Yeah, I mean,
for it.
Especially when you create a platform that's like designed for those short videos, you know, you're asking for it. I think with like a platform like TikTok for that sort of stuff to come out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to say until I see the whole thing. I don't know what your thoughts on it are.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just like.
I really doubt it will affect much. To be honest.
I don't think he's. This was like 4 or 5 days ago, and I don't think he's even fucking acknowledged it.
I hadn't heard of it.
I think it's very. Yeah, I hadn't heard of it too until someone was like, "Oh, I thought you would have heard of it." Just like, why would I? It doesn't fucking matter. I like it's the same sort of thing with like these kind of going through at the moment with like the mainstream media trying to like put his fucking name in the toilet. Just like it hasn't really affected him particularly at all. He kind of just like laughs at it and just like moves on.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a kind of, and this is not doesn't really speak to this kind of issue, but there's always a bit of like, especially in Australia, I think they call it like tall poppy kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like when someone's moving to the top, there's always going to be a brigade of people that don't like that.
Yeah.
But that does. I'm not speaking on this specific issue. I'm just saying that commonly happens in this country all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, there's nothing more Australian than fucking hating someone that's at a higher level of you and then just fucking bringing them down.
Yeah. I wonder what it is about Australia that sort of fosters that kind of culture.
I think it's just like, I think it's just the fact that just we hate authority. I think.
Maybe.
Like we hate being told what to do. Like, it's the same sort, like, vaguely sort of connecting it to, like, America and their political, like, stuff here. Like, people don't really have identity, or identity politics isn't really a thing in Australia, because we just don't give a shit. Like, how many times have you heard someone go, when they ask you about politics, like, oh, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Like, in Australia, I'd hear that constantly. And I was one of those people who would just be like, oh, I don't give a shit. I don't want anything to fucking do with it. Compared to like America, where it's just like so ingrained in like.
I think part of that is like Australia has a very, and we noticed this when we came to Australia. It's like Australia has a very kind of laid back kind of, you know, like having a beer out in the garden kind of culture. Yeah. Like it's not, you know, most people aren't really glued into those issues anyway. So it's like, I feel like most people don't really give a fuck, to be honest.
Yeah.
Here, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a very like laid backness and just like lack of giving a fuck, but also loving a shit meme as well to get behind.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Which, throwback, I remember Lewis Spears, when he's on the podcast, they're talking about that when he was in America, and him trying to explain how Australia and Australians love to get round like a shit meme, even though we know it's shit, but we'd like it because it's shit. And the best example he would give them is just like, oh yeah, people love Shannon Knoll here because he's shit, and it's a good meme to get around. But they're just like, oh, so he's terrible? Why would you like him? And so he's like, oh no, that's why we like him, because it's funny, because we know he's terrible, and that's why we support him, because it's funny. And they just couldn't like wrap their like head around it.
Australia's really weird in that sense, because it's like quite heterodox in the sense it's like, yes, there is that laid backness, but like, you know, when I think about some things about Australia, it's like, you know, Australia has a huge like coffee snob culture as well. Like,
really?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I don't drink coffee, so
like Starbucks tried to come to Australia like 20 years ago, and they've reopened now, but they tried to come to Australia like 20 years ago, and they opened up a ton of shops, and they had to close everything down because in America it's like very grab a coffee and go. Australia has a very like sit down coffee culture, and they didn't really provide for that, and so all the Australian coffee companies did a lot better than Starbucks. They had to close down. Now Starbucks is kind of reopening in a new way to appeal to Australians. Like I think the flat white is now moving to other countries, like as a term that gets used for like a regular
Oh,
coffee. Like that's not a common term
I
around
just
the.
realised that was not a common term.
Yeah, no, like Australia has, all these different coffee flavors that you can get aren't always common in every other country.
Huh.
Like it's like seriously, Australia's a massive coffee snob culture. It's pretty crazy.
There you fucking go.
So there you go. It's like Australia on one hand, very laid back, and then like very specific about some things.
Yeah, I mean, again, Australian culture. Fucking, don't give a shit about one thing, but like, fucking, you talk shit about fucking Forex beer in bloody Queensland, you'll get your shit kicked out of you. Or you mention the letters VB in the CBD, and you'll get your head kicked in.
Yeah, it's weird like that. It is really strange.
Yeah. Alright, I think it's time to get to what I dub the most autistic part of the podcast, and that is, of course, where I get questions, queries, and topics from a bunch of you cunts. So if you'd like to engage in the podcast in any sort of way and like to remain somewhat sort of anonymous, and if you got any other sort of like even stories that you think I might enjoy, you can either email me at mrgreentext@gmail.com. That's Mr. Greentext with an S on the end of that. Otherwise, you can go into the Discord, and there's a channel in there for the GreenCast, and you can drop your topics and comments in there. So to actually like at everybody asking if they had any questions as well for us, and there's actually some like okay ones. A lot of the time I get fucking like memed on. It's just like, are you gay? And it's like, okay, I'm just not even gonna fucking like read that on the podcast.
Why am I not surprised that your audience is like that? I'd love to know the median age of your audience.
Oh yeah, I don't know at this point.
Can't you check your analytics?
Huh?
Can't you check like your analytics?
Well, yeah, but
don't you have to be like 13 to have a YouTube account though?
yes, but a lot of the time, I think for a lot of websites like YouTube, you're making an account to get past the 18 plus filters, so you just lie about
That's
your
true.
age anyway.
That's true.
So I think it's very hard. But I have heard comments of people just been like, they offhandedly mention they're in school, but then I have had other comments of just like, I remember listening to this in high school. So it's like I have like some sort of new generation and some like older generation that are kind of growing up with me. So it's kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know. That's a whole other fucking thing, but like I think TikTok is one of the best ways to get like a new generation of fans over to like your social medias and that sort of stuff. Let's see. Kind of a big fucking brain question for the first one. A fellow called Slurp asks, what do you think the future has in store for humanity? Do you think we're gonna nuke ourselves into oblivion or get raped by aliens, etc.?
God, I don't know. Jeez, that's a lot. I mean, I don't even know how to start with that one.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty fucked, to be honest, unless we get on the right track with a lot of things. Like,
I think we're probably, if we want any sort of chance for humanity's survival, I think we're going to have to go interplanetary and have like other like bases, like whether it be on like Mars or other like stations around, like mine asteroids and that sort of stuff to like sustain like Earth as a whole, because we're not going to be able to do it with like.
So we can like fuck up another planet.
Yeah, fuck up another planet, just move along, as you do.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, obviously they're talking about, like Mars in the 2030s or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't think we'll really see anything significant interplanetary in our lifetime.
I think...
I don't know.
I'm pretty confident in saying that we'll definitely see man first step on Mars in our lifetime.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I believe that. I just don't know about, like, habitating. Is that the right word? Habitating?
Or like starting like
a life on another planet and getting that all set up. That'd take fucking decades to get that together.
I think in our lifetime they'd at least like establish maybe some colonies.
Maybe.
If anything, like on Mars and maybe the moon as just like another like launching pad, essentially. But yeah, I don't think they're gonna be like full on just like, oh, I'm gonna move to Mars sort of type thing.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like impossible to like predict what technology is going to be like in the future as well. Like you look at even like 20, 30 years ago with like the 90s view of the future or the 80s view of the future, where they're just like dystopic sort of VR, everything is going to be like that in like the 2000s. Like fucking Blade Runner, when that was made in the 80s, the original one was set in 2019, and that was that fucking sci-fi dystopia.
I mean, did people really at that time, like, was that a, you know, an actual reasonable expectation? I mean, obviously it's a little bit hyper kind of fantasy, but like that, surely that wasn't a realistic expectation of 30 years.
Well, I can't remember, again, where I hear a lot of fucking things, and I can never know where I hear it from. I think I vaguely sort of remember someone talking about a lot of that time, and even like the 50s, for example, how like they have like their sort of like 50s space rocket sort of theme, and you know,
like the flying saucers and whatever.
Yeah,
that looked fucking cool.
Yeah, and a lot of that is influenced from the fact that they did land on the moon, and so they're just like, oh, we landed on the moon, epic, cool, we're gonna have fucking colonies there in the next like decade or whatever.
Yeah, and
then they just did like, you know, 5 or 6 extra missions, and then just stopped going to the moon, and then nothing happened from there. I think it's just sort of just like, yeah, like, oh yeah, gone to the moon, epic. We'll just go to Mars, and then we'll just expand from there. We'll be fucking. I can't remember I think it's. I watch a lot of a channel called Kurzgesagt, or like In a Nutshell, and they like describe like levels of civilization. I think it's like a level 2 civilization that leaves their planet to establish other colonies. Like, we're gonna be at level 2, like in the next couple decades, and then fucking here we are.
All we need to do is find oil on another planet, and we'll be straight out there.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like this another like asteroid, like somewhat coming close into our solar system. That like if we mine it, it's supposed to be just raw materials are supposed to be worth like $200 trillion or something like that. Like more money that's in the current Earth's economy. But I think the big problem is like getting the resources to be actually fucking mine it in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, where's that money gonna go exactly?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, all right, who invests?
Like who on earth gets to keep that? What government or what private corporation gets to keep that money? Actually,
now that I said that's a sort of thing that I think is probably going to change as well. And it's even like, it's sort of a view of Cyberpunk 2077 as well. How in the future, private equities and companies almost have more control than governments do, just because they get so fucking large that they just can't be controlled.
In the future, right now.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
It's pretty much fucking happening.
What are you talking about? They all get lobbied by private corporations now. They control our lives.
Yeah, and I mean, like, fucking every time something happens to like Facebook, they get fucking good old Zucky to appear in front of Congress, and they just ask him about iPhones, and he's just like, I don't know, I run Facebook.
Yeah.
Like every response he has is like,
well, that's what happens when you've like your average elected official age is like fucking 74. You know, like that's what happens.
Fucking, how old's Biden again?
He's like gonna be 79, I think, by the time he's inaugurated. Just like, I think Reagan and Trump were both like 70, and that's like that was like the oldest, and he would be.
Cunt's gonna be 83 by he finishes his term.
I mean, I don't think he'll run for another one.
Oh no, I don't know if he'll even survive his first term.
I think probably I think he'll pave the way for his vice president.
Yeah, I think that was very much the fucking.
I think even like could be like 3 years. I think he'll want to give her like a year or so that she has a chance in the election. You can't just bring someone in right at the end; they'll lose immediately.
I think maybe even like halfway through or some shit like that.
I mean, you sort of have to run the country long enough to build a little bit of confidence. If people think that they didn't vote for the vice president, then I think you'll have to go a little bit. We'll see.
I mean, that's basically Australian politics.
Oh yeah, well, that's because we have a parliamentary system where the fucking party that's in power for some reason decides who's going to be the next prime minister. It's like we've had like how many prime ministers in the last 10 years?
We've had I
think we've
had like 8 or 9.
But Kevin Rudd, Julia Gillard, Malcolm Turnbull, Tony Abbott, Scott Morrison. But there's been a couple times where, and we've had Kevin Rudd twice, I think.
Oh, we've only had him once, I think.
No, we've had him twice.
Have we?
Yeah. Well, when did he leave?
Kevin 07.
Yeah, and then Julia Gillard, and then back to Kevin Rudd.
No, I think it was after Julia Gillard was Tony Abbott.
Kevin Rudd definitely was served twice. 100%.
So. Let me have
no, for real, I promise you. I'm almost certain about that he's been Prime Minister twice.
I don't usually fact check on this podcast, but I think I might this time. Wikipedia.
It was like 2013 or something.
Serving from December 2007 to 2010. Oh, and again from June to September for 2013.
Yeah, I think he got immediately defeated in the election by Tony Abbott or what?
Yeah, so that might have.
So yeah, he's been twice.
Prime Minister again for like fucking 4 months. Poor cunt.
Yeah.
Also, just immediately realised I closed all that.
Yeah, we've had a lot of turnover with our leaders.
Yeah, and it's literally just like it just happened overnight. Just like, oh, okay, they've elected.
It literally happens in the night, and they decide like, okay, we'll just switch hands because of how things are going.
Yeah, like I'm
it's
just
like you wake up and there's a new prime minister.
Literally, like I only just got used to just like Malcolm Turnbull being our prime minister, and then I woke up one morning just like Scott Morrison, new prime minister, and I'm like, who? Like I'd never heard.
It's really weird. Like I think when it switched from Julia Gillard to Kevin Rudd, that happened at like 11 p.m. at night, and most people didn't know there was a new prime minister until like the next few days. Like it's so weird how it happens over here. But hey, there's a lot of privileges we have with our voting. Way better than you vote at the top of the ticket in the United States.
Yeah, we have preferential voting.
Preferential, and we also have a parliamentary system, which is way better.
Yeah. So,
so suck it, losers.
I don't think either of us could really answer this, but whatever. Frog asked, how many years would it take you guys to get good enough to hold your own in a game of skate against Rodney Mullen?
Oh, against Rodney Mullen? Did he say Rodney?
Rodney Mullen.
Oh, okay.
I'm just retarded, can't say words.
Okay. No, I don't think that's even... He'd have to be, like, senile and, like, 93 before I'd even have a shot at that, I think. Like, you know, when you talk about skate legends, he's, you know, obviously Tony Hawk's the face of skate legends, but no one's influenced the sport as much as Rodney Mullen.
Yeah.
Responsible for so many fucking tricks.
Yeah. The man that single-handedly invented the ollie, the kickflip, and also just the shape of modern skateboards nowadays.
Yeah.
Just like, man can just like, oh, I'm just gonna go skate for an hour and invent like 3 new tricks. Just like, all right, I'm still trying to like get an ollie to perfectly like be flat in the air, and like get like a pop shove and consistently landing. Never. The answer is fucking
never. Yeah, he'd have to be in the grave, I think, before I'd win that.
Yeah. And then they ask, what are your skate styles? Would you ever consider learning the Dogtown Z-Boy style? I actually don't know what that means.
I don't know. I think my skate style is shit. That's all I can think of.
Yeah. Look, I don't think either of us really have a style.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, again, we've also been only skating like consistently for the past like
in skateboarding terms, that's quite a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So
like most people we fucking meet, like especially like when we're talking about like that 15-year-old kid just showing us how to skate. Like, I mean, sure, he'd only been skating for like 2 years or so, but like most of these people have been skating most of their lives and have grown up with all this stuff. When it's just like, you know, early 20s are just like, oh yeah, skating would be really fun.
There's like Asian like 8-year-old who's at and he was like on a longboard or something, but he was like going around the corners like, and he was like holding on to like the board and taking really tight corners.
It's like crouching and like gripping the.
And he was like actually, and I was like talking to him, and he actually showed us like how to do it.
Yeah, what a little.
And his dad came and said hi and was like, yeah, we had a bit of a chat. But yeah, like it was pretty mad. So.
Yeah, nothing more degrading to your ego than an 8-year-old child a bit showing you how to do a skate trick.
You're like made of jelly when you're that age.
Oh yeah.
And your brain can take in all that.
Do your friends watch hentai?
No, I've never once in my life watched hentai, and that's the truth.
Never? Not even out of curiosity?
I don't really... The animated shit's like... It's weird. I don't know.
I
have a pretty wide appetite, but I don't watch hentai.
I think I definitely went through a period when I was like younger, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And now it's just like it's okay, but it's like I don't go like out of my way. Just like I feel like I'm in a hentai mood today. It's not something that definitely does it nearly as much as when I was younger. I mean, I was also just mostly discovering the whole internet as a whole. I was fucking fascinated by it. But yeah, no. The answer is no. I don't even really watch... Well, I don't watch anime either.
No, well, I think that's... I mean, you know, without stereotyping, I think a lot of it is based in, like, an interest in anime. Because if you like Like, if you like that style and you're attracted to those characters, you're probably going to watch hentai, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, I think it's born out of that in a sense for most people who like hentai. So yeah.
Exactly. For some reason, people are just talking about rockets and talking about how to make a rocket. I have some weird. You might be listening. I have this one dude on my Discord called Dr. Lemon, who's like, I swear it's just an autistic child who's just a really good, like, independent engineer as well. Who's just like, oh, so I got a new 3D printer kit, and I'm designing this new, like, model rocket engine that I'm working on with, like, combustion and all that other stuff, like posting progress pictures, and I'm like, what the fuck is like this little weird mad scientist person just having like this weird rocket discussion.
Interesting. You have some
channel.
interesting people in your community.
Yeah, that's fucking one way to put it. What would you consider to be the absolute worst movie you've ever seen? And worst isn't just like, haha, this is really funny that it's bad, but just like outright, just like, I don't want to continue watching this.
God, there's some films that genuinely get like frustrate me because like they're so bad. The last one of the ones that I really didn't like, it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen, but it made me really frustrated to watch it. It was like, which one was it? It was like Pirates 4 or something. Or it's the one where it's like it was really different and like all of a sudden they got rid of like half the supporting cast and it's just about Johnny Depp's character.
I think that
and
Tell No Tales, I think.
It was one of them. Anyway, yeah, they get like the whole dynamic of that is like you don't have him as the main character all the time because he has to play off the straight man, like.
Yeah.
But they decided just to he was like the only returning character aside from a couple minor characters, and they built this whole movie around him. It was so bad and structured awfully. It actually made me angry watching it.
Similarly to that, and there's only been one film that I've ever walked out of a theater before without like completely finishing it, and that was the recent Robin Hood remake.
Oh yeah, I never watched that.
The one with Taron Egerton.
I heard it was bad. I never watched it though.
Oh yeah, I mean, granted, I also like went to like a 6 o'clock showing, and I was getting like a little bit tired. And it looked like 10:30, and the film still had like another half hour, 45 minutes, and I'm like, I've got no emotional investment about any character in this film, and I'm not having fun. I'm just gonna leave and go home.
There's some bad ones. Like I remember watching the Tom Cruise Mummy in the cinema. Oh. That was pretty bad. Where it's like you're not sitting there enjoying it. You're just kind of like picking it apart. And it's like, why am I watching this?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those sort of garbage like Hollywood trash that comes out.
Oh yeah, I think it's almost just like the Hollywood trash, just normal safe formula. I think is more infuriating than anything like one of Gora's film, for example. It was just like so incompetently made that it's just funny.
Yeah.
That it's like that. Like, granted, when I almost said his name. When my friend and I were watching it together, like there was points where we were like actually getting infuriated, but it was also like kind of funny at the same time. Like they literally, Gora repeats a plot point 5 times in the film, where, spoilers, a brother gets killed, and then the police come and search his body. They find a phone, they call it and say your brother has died, and then it just loops like 4 times with Gora coming along and then like killing him and then taking his blood with like a fucking syringe. And that's like 40 minutes of the film. It's just that, and it's just like it's almost just funny. Just be like, surely he's not gonna fucking do it again. Oh my god, he's doing it fucking again. What the fuck is happening? Surely not.
I like that you said spoilers there, just in case like one of the 11-year-olds who listens to this podcast decides to go and watch this really obscure film that's really bad, just in case,
Yeah. Also, when I said highlight reel, the film is almost 3 hours long. The highlight reel is an hour long. Because it's just
Jesus.
like I don't know what to cut because it's just so funny. And it's just
I've seen
so
like
bad.
is that one Birdemic? You seen that?
Yeah,
I watched
I've seen
that.
parts of it, yeah.
That's quite. It's so ridiculous. It's kind of funny. Like I've seen shit like that before.
Yeah. It's definitely like an art to it. And like I have another, I actually bought it the other day. I'll see if I can read the blurb. It's just funny. It's you're not gonna be able to hear me, but whatever.
He's getting a DVD out. Oh, it's still wrapped. Is it still in the wrapper?
Yeah. So this the next one that my friend and I are probably going to do is a movie called She Kills. And we saw this as a trailer that came loaded with the Gora DVD, which also it wasn't until after I contacted all the actually no, I bought this DVD, and I guess this company that makes these I guess just is like a hub for a lot of these people. And I guess they get so little fucking sales. He saw my name again buying something, and the owner of the site personally reached out to me and thanked me for buying something again and being a returning customer, and asked if there's anything that he could do. And so I explained just like, oh yeah, no, I love this sort of stuff. Can you explain to like, you know, some other films might be along this line because my friend and I really like this. It's like, oh yeah, da da da. And it's like, oh, here's also a Vimeo page where you can stream everything. And we're like, what the fuck? We didn't even realize this existed. And they're like, it wasn't until I bought this DVD you can get it for like $1.50 stream.
Well, no wonder they don't sell anything. What a bad salesman. Just gives you a Vimeo page with everything on there.
Yeah, well, after I bought the DVD, I didn't even know it fucking existed. So yeah, I bought this for like $10. And then realized it's like, oh, I can get it for $1.50 on Vimeo. Fuck. Yeah. So the back of the blurb reads for She Kills. Sadie's life is destroyed when a vicious gang called The Touchers targets her for their sadistic fantasies after witnessing her sexy but innocent naked in a nearby field. On her wedding night, they attack her and her husband Edward, brutalizing both of them. But during the attack, the virgin bride discovers a dangerous secret about her body. She is cursed with the legendary fire crotch, a condition where Satan has laid claim to her vagina. After visiting her fortune teller friend Casparella, a space exorcism is attempted on her meat flaps, but only ends up unlocking the hidden secret powers inside her. Her hatchet wound becomes lethal. Her most deadly weapon is her thirst for revenge against the Touchers and her fight against lustful men everywhere.
Is that supposed to be like? Are these films like supposed to be like serious or like when they write all that? Is it like a joke or?
I think this is one of the sort of ones where they're just like, oh yeah, no, this is supposed to be dumb and shit.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair enough. But
yeah.
like,
but it's
pretty outlandish concept.
Well, yeah. Well, the concept of a murderous space vagina. It's just like, okay, I don't even need to continue watching this trailer. I just want to see what the fuck this is about. I need to see what the hell this is.
Yeah.
So that'll probably be the next one. Be up, I don't know, fucking whenever. It took my friend like 3 months to finally like get him to actually come down and record it with me. So who knows?
It's not surprising.
Yeah, yeah, you know. So who knows when the fuck that'll be. The last other one that isn't just a dumb fucking mimi question, I guess. It's the same sort of thing. What's the worst video game you've ever played?
The worst video game I've ever played. Jeez. God, I don't know.
Yeah, even thinking myself, I'm not completely sure what the worst one would be.
God, I got no clue. I feel like I said, you'd play just like with films, a lot of games that make you sort of angry. Just like it's so bad that it just makes you. I don't know. The worst video game I've ever played. Like I feel like most of the really bad games I've played are probably played on purpose anyway, because I heard that they were bad. I honestly can't think of one. I don't play too many games anymore, but like. Yeah.
I need to like look through my Steam library to even like think about like sort of stuff that might be that bad. I don't know if actually I don't know if I can even do that on mobile. That's annoying. Store. Oh, here we go. Library. So I feel like there was a game that I sort of recently played that was just like, I'm gonna stop playing this because I am just not having a fun time at all.
There's difference between like the worst game you've ever played and being disappointed by a game.
I mean, immediately saying this podcast is going to be like, oh yeah, this was fucking horrible.
Yeah,
and I hate
you can
it.
probably think of it.
On the spot, I have absolutely no idea. I mean, there's games all the time that I pick up and I'm just like, oh, forget about it and just never again. Quantum Break, looking through that, is definitely one where I just like I played it for like 5 hours and then just forgot about it and didn't give a shit enough to pick it up again. I don't know if I necessarily call it a bad game per se. Actually, the new the Watch Dogs game as well is one of those ones where it's just like I played it for like 3 hours and then I'm just like, I'm just not having a lot of fun. I'm going to play something else. Just don't find it that investing. to me.
Yeah,
No,
I mean that first game was pretty disappointing when it came out. It was like, well, I remember all the downgrade shit in 2014. That first game, it looked really good in the very first reveal.
Yeah.
And every time they showed it after that, it looked worse and worse and worse. Until the driving physics in that are really bad.
Oh,
like
they're not better. In 3, I remember specifically playing, I'm like, this controls like it's a fucking boat.
Well, it's like, I don't know. After like playing GTA 5, and I play a lot of GTA 5, and all the cars feel very, very like, I don't know. They're very responsive, and there's a lot. They obviously have put a lot of money into their physics engine. It's like not everybody can do that.
It's also like an 8-year-old game at this point now.
Yeah, but I don't know. The cars just feel good in that game to drive. Like versus some others that obviously didn't put a lot of time into their car physics.
Ubisoft makes like car games, like The Crew and stuff. Like I don't know why it's so fucking horrid.
Yeah, I don't know. The Crew's also very like simulator sort of driving style, but I don't know.
Not as fucking like horrible.
There's a lot of like what's that one? Sleeping Dogs also had really bad driving.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of those kind of open world sort of third person games that have driving. It's really bad.
Yeah.
I think even like the Saints Row games aren't amazing.
I feel like Saints Row still has better driving.
It does.
Watch Dogs Legion, which is hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know.
Alright, well, I suppose I'll call the podcast there. We've been going for about an hour 20.
Oh, okay. Well, time flies.
Yeah, time flies.
When you're talking to an audience of 11-year-olds.
Look, I'm sure there's, majority other than 11, I'd hope.
You'd hope so.
Podcast.
You'd hope so.
Like, surely, like, I mean, granted, the generations definitely changed and that sort of stuff, but, like, I don't think, podcasts weren't even really a thing. We were 11 as well. Like,
probably not.
I was playing my fucking DS playing Pokemon at 11. That was my life.
Now they just, like, they play Fortnite, watch Ninja and whatever else now.
All 11-year-old know how to do is to play Fortnite, eat hot chip and lie. Eat hot chip and scream. Anyway, thanks for joining me. You got no social medias I want to shout out because I don't want to dox you. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you later, cunts.